G'day again, punters. Rightio. Let's look at the infamous Petrie's Core 7 and lost ancient high-tech claims. In this slide, note the certainty and absolute type of language that Ben uses in his communication. Here is a display of the reality of what these guys are talking about. Note the lack of, to use a Ben trope, precision. Also, the actual chaotic arrangement of the striations that fly in the face of Ben's tale of ancient machinery that is way better than we have today. There is nothing to suggest a constant feed rate or anything better than we have today at all being involved in the drilling process. And here we have the actual process of coring by hand itself, along with proof in the archaeological record in the form of discovered artifacts, which, by the way, does include worn copper found in the bottom of core holes, as well as hieroglyphs depicting the process. Okay, let's view a few vids that get straight to the irrefutable and incontrovertible proof that we all want. Let's go.
A YouTube channel called Scientists Against Myth.
Okay.
Going back several years now, here we see some of the photos of the Science Against Myth team arranged, 2022. These are still yet, well, now Christopher Dunn's been forced into it, but we still haven't, with the other experiments, they're still not acknowledging these because they know that this will ruin the grift. So here we see, again, just another example of those, striations that have, incontrovertibly verified, geometrically proven. That's what they have there. You don't need, if they want to go to the expense of using an expensive, device and to measure it, well, as Ben said, you can go to the Petrie Museum and look at that. I'll link this as well, Out of Place Artifacts, 100 Years of Deception, by the Scientists Against Myth. So I go through all of these. They've examined the core, they've done the experiments, I've replicated the experiments, and again, open challenge to any of the defenders of, Uncharted X, Christopher Dunn. I'd love to see you repeat your experiment. We'll come up to that in a moment. But
it certainly was not through grinding with sand and carpet.
Right.
Because that's the core that I made, and to the right of it is the core that Dennis Stocks made.
Speaking of deception and censorship, I did a longer form video on it. I'll link all these in the description. Christopher Dunn just mentions the core that he made. Here is the tool that he describes. I go into more detail. The experiment is farcical to begin with, but his claims that he did this by hand are simply false, because one of the taper is one of the impossible features to do, and well, he even describes his own the core is essentially perfectly cylindrical. It has a taper on either side of less than 0.5 millimeter. Having used that tool extensively, and even especially the way he describes it, using it to and fro, it will have to wobble. It would have to create a taper. It's simply impossible that he did it, has claimed. Very obviously, unless someone can demonstrate otherwise, the only plausible explanation of how he was able to achieve that was by using a drill press or something like this, because the drill would have to wobble if hand operated, especially, he wasn't turning it in a single direction, he was even to and fro. Each time would throw the drill off. It's just physics, it's biomechanics, it would have to do that. Not to mention the slower RPM of how so very long it would take. And so, yes, he used a device like this to do that, and further evidence of that is the black mark, the staining, the burn mark in there, because when he first applied it, he was putting too much pressure on there. So Christopher Dunn's experiment is fake. If he was using, it's just, again, flywheel, the drill such as that, it's just going to have to wobble, top heavy, off centre, crank handle. There's no other way around it. So it's why it's very important for the house of cards that they speak of is actually in, they've got the house of cards. So the symmetrical statues, it's just false. Precision Serapeum, false. And Core 7 is absolutely false. And it's built on censorship and fake experimentation. It's, you know, the experimentalists, but they've done it. They're able to fool him in front of audience of millions of views.
Look at that image, that all the spiral lines around that. That's just amazing.
Yeah, so you can go there, and I intend to do this. I might be in the UK this year, and I intend to do that. It's called the cotton wrap test. You can actually, under a little microscope, run a piece of cotton through that groove. Now, they actually took it a step further, and they made a latex moldage.
Right.
And the markings and the machining doesn't look anything like what you see in the ancient examples. And for each, say, 60 inches of horizontal travel, it's going 1 inch into the stone. So imagine that. So if you take than we can achieve today in terms of how fast it penetrates the granite.
500 times greater.
Now it doesn't mean it cut quicker. It could have been moving slowly, like it might have been turning slowly.
Right.
But it's penetrating the granite at a rate far greater than what we can achieve with our technology today.
Here, Ben elegantly delivers a classic scientists hide the truth to preserve their hardened dogmas thing. But Ben, you must be very well aware of the granite drilling experiments conducted by Nikolai Vasutin. Haven't you even tried to figure them out? Didn't you read the article by Oleg Kryglakov, illustrations from which were shown in the Joe Rogan podcast? Didn't you watch our video on core number 7? After all, the article and the video explain, and they both have been translated into English, why the impossible spiral groove and the drill plunging into granite with incredible speed are only a myth. Your ideological mentor Chris Dunn was introduced to both the video and the article several years ago, promised to learn more and give feedback, but we never heard back from him. Maybe you just don't want to face something you accuse mainstream archaeologists.
So there we have it. What do you reckon? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for all the latest releases. Also, enjoy the links in the description. Catch you later.